Hi, I'm Malcolm Graham Wood, and welcome to my CEO interview here at Core Finance. My guest today is David Minchin, who's the CEO of Helium One Group. Good afternoon, David. Nice to see you.
Hi, Malky. Absolute pleasure.
Welcome to Core Finance, and thank you for joining me. The question I always ask to start off with is just to say, I wonder if you could give our viewers an overview, a brief overview of Helium One, please. Some of them might not have known much about you because you're fairly recent in the marketplace.
So Helium One listed in December. We're exploring the Rukwa Helium Project out in Tanzania. This is a potential game changer in the way that helium can be provided over the next 100 years. We've got a resource of 138 billion cubic feet, which is bubbling up to surface at a grade of over 10.5% helium. So it's 50 to 100 times higher grade than anything which is currently in production, and it's got the capacity to control the price of this much in demand, high tech, high value commodity for the next 100 years.
Excellent. So let's talk through your first of all, you're exploring in Tanzania. It's exploration drilling, as people who might worry about not knowing the difference between Helium One and an exploration company. So perhaps you could, in a second, explain what that is. And I understand that drilling is fairly imminent. You're drilling a well in July, I understand. And so what will that cost?
We're commencing drilling in early June, so very, very imminent. We've got teams on the ground already. The drill pad is being assembled. The roads have been cleared and graded and widened. We've got equipment arriving in our camp. That's going to be moving out to the site soon. So everything is going very smoothly for an early June start. Drilling consists of it's a vertical hole down to about 1,200 meters depth. So what we're doing, we're combining sort of mineral rig with a lot of oil and gas technology. The reason we're using a mineral rig is we're targeting traps down to 1,200 meters, which are easily accessible with a mineral rig. And even the biggest mineral rig is much cheaper than the smallest oil and gas rig. So for the cost of one oil and gas well, we're able to do 3 helium wells. I famously don't like wasting time on money, especially money. So
how much would that be, dollars per well, roughly?
It's about $1.5 million per well.
Yeah.
So, compared to the cost of hydrocarbon exploration to drop in the ocean.
Yeah, absolutely. Even onshore, yeah.
Huge. We've got a very high value gas. Helium's, I don't know what the current price for Henry Hub is, but it's about $3 an MCF. Helium is about 100 times more in terms of value. It's $300 to $350 per MCF, and it's used in a wide variety of high value end usages. But one of the things that really differentiates us from hydrocarbon in terms of our exploration is the helium which we're producing isn't associated with any greenhouse gases. It's a very simple bimodal helium and nitrogen gas. It considerably reduces the cost in terms of processing. We can build a plant for about $50 million rather than sort of the hundreds of millions which go into constructing an oil and gas project. But importantly, we're part of a transition into a green economy. We are in the future. We're still going to need to use helium. We're going to need cloud data centers. We're going to need fiber optic cables. We're going to need semiconducting chips. But it's not sustainable for it to be produced as a byproduct of liquid natural gas. Those investments are gone. And you can. I was reading on the BBC today that the city of London finances an equivalent of 805 million tons of CO2 release every year, and the city of London wants to stop financing that. We are transitioning into a green economy. There won't be mega gas projects in the future, and you will need alternative sources of helium.
And we'll come back to it in a minute, but the helium you think will be scalable in a big way. So let's just start off. You've been using 2D seismic recently, and I've got two questions on that. If I may start off, first of all, you've selected the Tai prospect first, and is that down to the fact that you had some new 2D seismic? Because when we spoke a couple of months ago, I'm not sure that was your sort of plan, but at the time, so is that the case? It's suddenly become the sort of the lead prospect, and with a chance of success of about 21%. Is that correct?
So we've completed 200 kilometers of infill seismic, and that's really given us a much better resolution image of the subsurface, and it's really helped our understanding of the trapping structures, the various trapping structures which we have in our area of interest. Tai particularly jumped out to us because it was much larger than had been interpreted from historical data. What you have is a very nice three-way dip closure over gravity high. It's a horsed structure. What that means is that the rocks entire have been faulted upwards, and of course gas rises. So where you've got something faulted upwards, it's a good place for it to be accumulating. It dips the closure in three directions. The fourth side is made up by this controlling fault. If that's also sealing, then we've got a lovely trap. So that as a target, it jumped out to us. It also has the benefit, which is that all the various horizons which we want to test are all stacked one on top of the other. There's trap closures stacked one on top of the other there. So we can test multiple horizons in a single hole, and then use that to feed our information into the next hole.
So going on from that, the next question, you've sort of answered it, because I was going to say, would success or failure at Tai write off the whole prospect or the region or anything else? It would only write off what you've got stacked there. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if Tai fails, that's told us that trap hasn't worked. That would probably be a case that the gas was escaping across the fault, and therefore that trap wasn't working. That doesn't reduce the likelihood of success on other different trapping styles which we have around the basin. It doesn't tell us that if we drilled something identical to Tai at somewhere else, then that fault might be trapping and this one isn't, or the other way around.
Yeah.
But it does help us with sort of everything that we learn. We can feed into the rest of the exploration campaign, and it is exploration. We've done what we can to de-risk it from surface,
right,
but we can't change what's under the ground.
Yeah, no, like any
and make sure that everything we learn from hole one goes into hole two, goes into hole three, and increase our probability of success as we progress.
Okay, now this is really important, because a lot of people have been asking me this question, and it seems like a stupid question, but I know it's not. When it's time to issue the results of the well, how will you go about it? I say that because, I understand that you'll have to announce helium shows on the way down as you go down. So to a certain extent, if you've gone all the way to total depth and you haven't had any helium shows, people will understand. If you've announced helium shows on the way down, how will the marketplace, how will the unsophisticated person like me know just how good or not good it really is? And will you, I mean, I know it's a stupid question, but will you be announcing flow rates, and will we know how good or bad they are?
So we're going to announce helium shows as they come. So as we're getting helium back in the mud, if a geologist says to me, this is a helium show, then I will announce it. Various types of show, it might be rather subtle, it might be quite a nuanced call. But if a geologist says this is a helium show, then we announce that show. We'll be running a wireline down each hole on completion. That gives us, if we're getting good reservoir rocks adjacent to where we found the helium shows, and particularly if the NMR tool shows that there's gas in the pore spaces, then that's a discovery. That's something which we can announce. And then the third thing we're going to try to do is to take a sample out of the hole. So we're going to try to flow some gas to surface so we can sample it, or we can analyze it, so we can get the grade of helium out of the gas. Now, flow rates aren't going to be particularly meaningful. It's a slimline hole. It's only a 10 centimeter diameter. We don't have facilities to clean the hole, so it's going to be covered with mud and cake on the walls.
Yeah.
So nothing meaningful in terms of flow rate is going to come out of this. But what is going to come out of it is that sample, and that's a really nice thing to take out.
So like an oil or gas exploration well, you will know and be able to tell the marketplace roughly how good or not good that is with that announcement. We'll
hopefully be able to report on a certain thickness of gas column, and then if we're able to sample that gas, we're able to report on a grade of that gas column too.
And as I understand it, these a decent prospect could be 5 or 6 billion BCF. Is that sound about right?
Yeah, we haven't got any external volumetrics since we've redone our 2D seismics, but the potential is that we can make substantial discoveries on a single hole. But the other important thing is that a discovery on a single hole helps to de-risk the entire basin. You can look at, say, Tai and say, okay, this style of trap worked. These reservoir rocks work. These seal rocks work. So if you look at this one, which hasn't been drilled, there is a high likelihood that this one works on the basis that this one did work. So it shows that the system works, and we can every discovery that we make, every resource we convert to reserve, it also helps to de-risk the remaining resources.
Okay, now in the case of a discovery, I remember talking about this when you very kindly gave me a few minutes at that meeting a couple of months ago. You can almost go straight into production, can't you? And so the question one is, how quickly do you produce from a successful well? And the second thing is, it's all done by trucks, isn't it? You change the temperature, but you will be tracking everything for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. So it's the route from a discovery into production. The idea is we jump straight from exploration into appraisal, drill a wider diameter hole, which we can do some proper flow testing from, rather than these slimline exploration wells. We'd then we'd like to do some 3D seismic. So the idea is to complete as much appraisal work as we can before the end of this year, and spend 2022 focusing on the engineering studies and on mining license applications, environmental studies, etc. We'd then be looking to commence construction, hopefully in 2023. So we're able to flow our first gas before the end of 2023. It's not quite straight into production, but it's a very short timeline from here until we're flowing.
But all trucks, isn't it? They're never going to have a pipeline in this.
Yeah, and then trucks. So you would liquefy it at site. But the liquefaction also produces a very pure 99.999% helium. The liquid helium is loaded into ISO trucks, which is, I don't know how to describe it. It looks like a big gas canister on a truck.
Yeah.
And it mounts onto a trailer, and they drive it to the port. There's lots of boats going in and out of the port of Dar es Salaam every day. So you load it onto a normal container ship, and it goes straight out to China, Japan, Europe, wherever the market is. So it's a very sort of, for an African project, it's a very easy logistical route.
Perfect. You just nipped it right into almost the next question. So I'll jump one question, if I may. The marketplace for the helium that you're going to find. You said the Far East or anywhere else. I mean, your end market is anything, isn't it? From universities and hospitals to marketplace, and it's worldwide. Is it a completely international market you're addressing here?
I mean, the nice thing about the helium market is it's a very diverse market. It's not restricted to any one industry or any one any one jurisdiction. I think, from east coast of Africa, it naturally targets Europe, China, and the Far East. And if we get, China imports 1 billion cubic feet of helium every year. It doesn't have any domestic helium supply, and I think that'll be a very open marketplace for us to produce huge amounts of fiber optics and semiconducting chips, and a lot of high-tech manufacturing occurs in China. So I think that'll be a natural marketplace for our product. But similarly, Japan and the Far East, Australia, and up through the Suez Canal into Europe, we've got a very simple logistical route once it's on a boat.
Yeah. So I seem to remember you saying before that the other producing countries are the USA, Russia, Qatar, and Algeria, I think you said.
Yeah.
So where you are does give you a sort of bit of an advantage in terms of markets of the Far East, I guess, unless the Russia is. And price-wise, as you said, you mentioned it briefly before, but price-wise, it's been solid enough, and you'd be confident that with the worldwide demand that there is, that you'd be you're pretty confident that you've got a solid and upwardly mobile price.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to understand this is a dramatically undersupplied market, and where there's no flexibility in supply. I mean, for the Qataris who are producing from 0.05% helium, they can't ramp up their hydrocarbon production just for a sniff of helium gas. So the helium which we provide is there to fill that gap in the market, and to be flexible and long term and responsive to consumers' needs. And the price has reacted to this lack of supply. Looking at data, customs data out of China, which is a very good window into an opaque market. You're looking at $350, $375 per MCF at the moment on bulk transports. And we're hearing anecdotal reports of end users paying up to $1,500 per MCF, and it's the same helium, just in a smaller packet. So there's lots of ways into this market.
So might you sell direct to the end supplier occasionally, or would you sell into a marketplace, or would you sell? Have you envisaged yet how you're going to go about doing that? We did talk about it briefly, but I mean, there are companies and universities and things who just like to do a direct deal, wouldn't they?
It's a bit early to be having those conversations, Mark. We haven't even drilled our first hole yet, but
I understand.
I mean, we'd be looking at all sorts of sales. We would sell direct to consumers if the demand's there. I mean, we're an exploration company. We're not a distribution company. We don't have the customer base or the logistics to ship helium everywhere in the world just yet. However, once we're in production and we've been producing a few years' time, we'll be looking at expanding how we operate.
Great stuff. You've just a quick question on financing and shareholders, if I may. I mean, you've had an amazing couple of months. It really is only a month or 6 weeks ago since you did the placing and the subscription, which raised 10 million pounds and at 10p. So the shares have obviously done very well, and you've had some warrants being exercised, which has brought in some money. Where are you financially in terms of, have you obviously you've got enough, you're drilling this well, is enough for this whole program? Will you be raising more in due course, or how are you financed?
Financially, we're very comfortable. We've got all the finance in place for the exploration drilling and for the appraisal work which we want to do. Obviously we'll have to come back to the market before production, or if we want to finance any additional exploration work beyond the appraisal, which we've already planned. But certainly that's not on the horizon at the moment. I'm entirely nose down making sure that we execute on the drilling. I'm entirely execution focused at the moment, and it's hard work, but it's fun.
So have you had has the pandemic meant that you've been staying in the UK rather than visiting Tanzania a lot, or have you managed to get out there a few times?
Yeah, so I spent the first 3 months of this year out in Tanzania. I moved my family out there so we could get an idea of what's happening on the ground and make the contacts that we're going to need. Not just for short-term, not just for contacts we need to make things work now, but also to look over the horizon and to see what, when we have our success, we're going to need to grow our company very rapidly, because we'll have the tiger by the tail, and we'll go from 20p a share to, I don't know, but it's going to be an exponential growth. And at that stage, we're going to have to grow our management team and increase our spread of competencies. So I've been looking, as part of what I was doing out in Tanzania, we can look over the horizon to plan for a success case.
It's been a very good start. How does your shareholder list look like? I know that you obviously had Sirocco and 1 or 2 other people, and you've got, I know you've got a very, very loyal retail fan base. What does the shareholder list look like, David?
It's a good list. It's a diverse list. We've got lots of high net worths, lots of retail, which is nice. We have plenty of volume and plenty of interest on the bulletin boards and Reddit. We've got a few institutions who came in on the last raise. It's a healthy mix. The nice thing is there's no one major shareholder. There's no tail that wags the dog. It really is a diverse and diversified group. But it's very well supported, as we saw from the last fundraiser we did, where it was more than 2 times over subscribed.
I know you must be absolutely delighted.
Existing shareholders, yeah.
But you must be absolutely delighted how well it's all gone.
What's nice is seeing people who put in at 2.8p, coming in at 10p. They believe in the project, and they want to see the long-term success.
And a long way to go, I suspect. Before we pack up, David, I always ask my guests the same question. Putting all, you've answered this question in the last 20 minutes, but putting it all together, where would you like to see the company over the next 12 to 18 months, with all your hopes and expectations?
12 to 18 months. I think we'll have some bulldozers on the ground. We'll have equipment moving out as we start our construction. We will have a major discovery of the largest, highest grade helium project in the world, which has got globally strategic implications for how this commodity is supplied. Will be the envy of every other helium explorer, and we'll be on a very comfortable place.
I'm very pleased to hear it. David, thank you very much for taking time out this afternoon to speak to me. It's been a joy to have you with me. And
thank you, Malky. Absolute pleasure.
A pleasure. So I'm Malcolm Graham Wood. This has been my CEO interview on Core Finance. My guest today has been David Minchin, the CEO of Helium One Group. Our thanks to him, and thanks to you for watching, and look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye now.